Hi, I'm artist Charles Fazzino. Don't go anywhere because Profiles is coming right up.
Welcome to Profiles. I'm Micky Burns. Today's guest is 3D pop artist Charles Fazzino. 30 years ago, Charles developed a unique and distinctive 3D art technique that made him world famous. His artwork has been displayed and featured at over 20 Super Bowls, 13 Major League Baseball All-Star games, and the Olympics. After a short break, I'll be back to welcome artist Charles Fazzino to Profiles. Welcome back to Profiles. I'm Micky Burns. 3D pop artist Charles Fazzino is a native of New York City and attended the School of Visual Arts here. He wasn't a great student, and reflecting back, he said, "I felt there was nothing else I could really do and do it well other than be an artist." Today, his artwork is displayed in over 20 countries. So join me now from the Fazzino Studios in New Rochelle as I welcome artist Charles Fazzino to Profiles. 3D pop-up artist Charles Fazzino, welcome to our show Profiles.
Thank you, Mickey, for having me.
And thanks for inviting me to your studios in New Rochelle.
The greatest place in the world, New Rochelle.
Right outside of New York City.
It is, yes.
Well, thank you for inviting us. 30 years ago, you developed a unique and distinctive 3D art technique. How would you define for our viewers what is 3D pop art?
Well, I loved pop-out books as a kid. My mother collected them. She was from Finland, and she always had them around the house.
Yep.
In the early days when I was at School of Visual Arts in New York, graduated, couldn't find a job. I decided to start showing my work at these outdoor art shows in New York and Florida. Went into an arts and crafts store in New York, and they were doing these 3D paper tolling, it was called. It was cutting out wrapping paper, greeting cards, and putting them this sticky glue they made for children's plaques. I sat down with all these old retirees in Fort Lauderdale in this arts and crafts store, paid my $10 for the class, and reminded me immediately of the 3D pop-up books. During School of Visual Arts, I sort of honed my skills. I always had this kind of whimsical style about my work. But then until I got the idea to do the 3D and trying to make a pop-out book in those days, it's kind of ended up becoming what it is today.
Wow, wow. Well, your artwork is sold and displayed in over 20 countries. But when I read 20 countries, I said, I wonder if Charles has ever been surprised of some of the countries that have been interested in your artwork. That's the first question. The second question is, do your trips around the globe inspire your art?
Oh, so I'm always surprised about how art sort of transcends language. My work sells in countries where many of them don't even speak English, but something about the artwork speaks to them. The artwork is colorful, it's three-dimensional, it's interesting.
It is.
So for instance, Japan, it's been very popular there now for probably close to 35 years.
Wow.
And I always ask myself, why? The Japanese love it. Well, they love origami, they love intricate details. They love color, and it's everything that I do. So I kind of understand that. Even though sometimes I go to shows in Japan, they don't speak the language, and we can't speak to each other, but they just love the artwork.
And have your trips inspired your work?
All the time.
All the time.
So for instance, going to Japan inspired me to do pieces on Japan and Tokyo, Osaka, and my trips to Germany. I can't tell you how many pieces I've done on different cities in Germany and France. All the places that carry my work, I love to be able to be challenged and draw imagery that is not just New York.
Got it. And I would venture to guess when you started, you didn't have a team. You did most of it yourself.
It was just my wife and I. So I was either printing or painting during the day, and then at night my wife was cutting out all the pieces with a barber's scissor and an X-Acto knife and putting them into little bags, and then I glue them on the kitchen floor or at my table at home, and that's how it all started. It was really trying to mimic a pop-out book.
Right.
But they've gone through this whole metamorphosis of what they look like today.
And today it's world famous.
Yes.
And it started out little
in
items.
1981.
Unbelievable.
So Mickey, I want to show you now the next stage of the cutting and the gluing part of my artwork, and it's an integral part of making the artwork three-dimensional.
Right.
And I can actually show you, Larissa here is
Hi, Larissa.
cutting and,
how are you?
and gluing the artwork. This is a hand-printed piece that that is of the Paris Olympics. You can see the the Paralympic marks, and as well as the United States Olympic team.
Yeah. This is great.
So it starts off, this is, if you notice that this particular part of the piece is printed on a very, very thick, heavy paper. The reason for it, it allows us to use the subsequent layers that are going to go on top, that they're not going to sort of bend and crease. It's going to stay nice and firm. Each one of my pieces has to be actually cut out by hand. So you see all the pieces here have all been cut out with an X-Acto knife.
It brings me back to my childhood, Charles.
Yes. It's like
I used to do this as a kid.
Right. It's like
did,
paper dolls or something. It's cutting
so,
out pieces. And I think people really appreciate the artwork because the artwork is still all made by hand.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
So I actually cut through.
And then you have to do the fine work, right?
That's right. And then after you kind of cut out all the excess paper, then each piece is cut out like this by hand.
And this is what your wife used to do
Exactly.
in the beginning, right?
Now she used to use a special barber scissor, because she was a cosmetologist, so she was really good at using her hands. She was a hair cutter. So
but you got to be careful too.
Yes,
you
this
cut
is
your finger
extremely sharp.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm going to show you how it's glued.
All right.
So we use a special type of special glue that's made for us in Belgium.
Really?
And it's made just for our studio, and it's a special type of silicone that I've been using for years. This particular silicone, when you put it on, it's so thick that when you place the artwork on, the artwork stays, and it has that spacing between it, so that which gives you that three-dimensional look. Right.
How cool is that? Right.
So there.
I see.
And then
look at all that. Wow.
You turn over the artwork, and this is the hardest part. Is once you cut it out, you have to figure out, okay, where am I
going to put it?
Yeah, where does it go? Is it going to be in the same place? And sometimes on fireworks, I purposely offset it so it looks more three-dimensional.
And that looks three-dimensional to me.
And you notice I just glued it, right?
Yes.
The miracle about this is that
it's already on. Wow. How and that glue will keep that three-dimensional look for how long?
Well, I have pieces that I started in 1981 that still look like they were made yesterday.
Wow. Now, your artwork currently is displayed and featured in over 20 Super Bowls. I don't know what this will be for you. 20.
I think it's like 23.
20. And years just fly by, don't they?
Yep.
13 Major League Baseball All-Star games, Grammy Awards, Emmy Awards, the Olympics. So your stuff is featured in all of these events.
Yes.
How does something like that get started for you?
So many years ago, it really started with Major League Baseball. They loved what I was doing. I had showed artwork I wanted to do. I wanted to license Yankee Stadium and the Yankees because I'm from the Bronx.
Yeah. You're a fan.
So and fans would always say to me, oh, I'd love to have a Yankees piece or a Mets piece. So I approached Major League Baseball. They love what I did. They said, I pay a licensing fee to them on everything that I create. They approve it, and then it goes on to be made into an edition.
Wow.
So that's how it all started. It all started with that, and that led to the National Football League asking me to commemorate Super Bowl. They asked me, would you like to be the Super Bowl artist and do artwork for it?
It's just incredible, right?
And I was like, Yes.
And besides, we're going to talk about what you do for them.
Yeah.
Because for the Super Bowls, you use helmets as your canvas.
I sure do.
And how did you come up with that concept in the beginning?
When we decided that I was going to do this artwork, I would be showing my collection at every Super Bowl. Okay, so I wanted something besides my flat art, and they had seen that I was doing sculptures, things on guitars, whatever.
Helmets, huh?
So they sent me all these old helmets and said, "What can you do with these?" So I sanded them, and it took me 3 years to figure out how to make the adhesive stick to the helmet, my artwork, that the paint wouldn't repel it, that they would stay well, how to glaze them, what they look like today. So it took some time.
Yeah.
Also, how do you draw on a small football or a baseball, little tiny ones.
Right.
And, so I figured out how to do that. And then we show them at this collection at their Super Bowl experience every year.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah.
And you display your artwork there.
Yes.
Do you sell it?
We do.
How many helmets do you go there with?
Usually about 6 or 7 dozen.
Wow. And do you always sell out?
Depends on who is in the game. It depends on what team.
Okay.
And especially if it's a New York team.
Forget it.
Then all my New York fans are like ravenous. They have to have it.
Sure. Before, let's get away from your artwork just for a bit and talk about your life, if we may. Now, as a teen, this is what you said. You said, I wasn't a great student. How come?
I have no idea. I was terrible. I just made it by with D's. It was... but I was really always good with creative things.
Yeah, continuing with your background, you graduated from the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan. How important was that experience to your career?
Very. And I think the most important thing about going to School of Visual Arts is realizing and understanding the difference between what good art is and what schlock is.
There's a lot of both.
And to also think in ways that an artist in the art world think, even though I really stayed with my old style that I sort of always drew, because I felt that people connected with it. So I didn't do a lot of art and continue like a lot of my fellow artists at School of Visual Arts that went into very serious and art. And obviously my work is not serious. It's artwork that makes you happy, and everybody can understand it. You don't need an art education.
That is true. A lot of what you do today is big business. Where did you learn business?
I think I had this innate ability from my father to be able to run a company and to, and a lot of it is about relationships, I found. And I tell this to young art kids who are interested in the arts. And I said a lot of it is about personal relationships and just knowing how you treat people, how you want to be treated. It's that kind of thing.
Well, let's go back, because you gave a great tip for other art students who are wondering if they should make a career out of it like you did. And you said, when you finish school, you have to do something that's different, that sets you apart from everyone else.
I think that is very important for an artist,
Uniqueness.
Exactly. My artwork is different from everybody else's because it's literally pops off the paper, pops off the canvas, and people know me for that. When they see something 3D, they know that's me. I always tell my daughter, who decided also, she works here, and we publish my daughter's work now. She's a graffiti artist.
Sure.
And I told my daughter at an early age, which I tell many young art students, it's not necessary if you have the art ability in you to go to art school. What you need is a business background. If you're going to run a business, if you want to make if you want to do art, do it for your heart. If you want to do it as to sell, to make money at it, and to be successful, you need a business degree. So I sent my daughter to PACE.
Very good.
And for international business, and she's got a really good head on her shoulder, and she's doing artwork, and now selling internationally.
Those are great tips.
Yeah.
She was fortunate to have that kind of guidance.
Yeah.
Also, in a recent interview, this is what you said: some of my end products happened by mistake. How so?
So in my early days during the silk screening process, I'd make mistakes. There were drips of paint. When I was cutting them, my wife would cut them. She'd have overcuts.
Yeah.
So, like for instance, the reason I'm not really a glitzy person.
Yeah.
But you notice my work is very glitzy. It's full of Swarovski crystals and glitter, and it's, people look at it and they go, "Wow, it's bling." The reason for it is very early in my career. I started going to arts and crafts stores and finding things that I can embellish my artwork to cover up my mistakes. So whether it be cut marks, I would use glitter to cover it, or maybe drops of paint, I would put stones over it. So in the early days, I sent some of my early pieces to art galleries, right? And in New York, and I'd send them the regular pieces that were perfect.
Right.
And then I'd send them some of these other pieces of artwork that were embellished because of mistakes. And they said, some of the galleries were saying, "We want the ones with the glitter and the stones. Can you please send these back?"
So
they sent them back to me to put them on. So it's like, I realized that it happened by mistake.
Sure, and a mistake isn't the end of the world.
Right.
In the late 80s, you moved your studios to New Rochelle.
Yes.
Why New Rochelle? And tell us a little bit about your association with it.
Well, I've always been here.
Yep.
I went to summer school here in New Rochelle. I've always lived right next door in Pelham Manor.
Yeah.
So, and I was born in the Bronx.
Yep.
And my parents moved up from the Bronx many years ago. And this is my home.
No need to be in Manhattan.
No, I love Manhattan, and I think that's what inspires me
Yeah.
about everything that I do. And the reason why I love New York is because I'm not living in it.
Okay.
I can appreciate it from here. I can go go have dinner in the city, come back, go see a Broadway show, come back. I still feel that feeling of that shaky rush when I go into New York.
Okay.
But I leave it behind. I think that's why I still love it.
Yeah.
This is our showroom where we do shows, a lot of charity events, sometimes on the weekends.
Yeah.
And once a year we open up my studio to the city in New Rochelle.
Yeah.
It's called New Rochelle Arts Fest. So we do like framing stuff here.
Wow, look at this. And the city of New Rochelle must love you here.
Yes, because we're a big part of the New Rochelle Arts Fest.
Right.
And here I show all my newest pieces every year.
Right.
A sculpture that was made during COVID, and then like I said, I decorate different sculptures.
Yeah.
So this is the Honeymooners. You can believe it. It takes place in Brooklyn.
Yes.
And there's all the history about the Honeymooners, and actually Trixie was a friend of my mom's.
Joyce Randolph.
Yes, she's also
I had her
Finnish.
on the show.
Yeah.
You did? When she was 94.
Yeah, really?
And she was great.
This is new. I have a new Archie license with the Archie comics.
I just had Ron Dante from the Archie side.
Oh, you did?
Sugar.
Oh, yeah.
He was at the St. George Theater, and he's a Staten Islander, and I had him on.
So we did an Archie piece together.
And they're still popular after all these years.
They are.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I'm also doing a lot of entertainment helmets.
Look
so
at
this is Iron Man.
Look at that.
And I decorate it with the theme about the movie.
Right.
This is Halo, the Master Chief, and it's all decorated about the video game.
This piece really is a great city piece.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's printed on aluminum. You can see how reflective it is.
It's phenomenal.
So it's been printed on aluminum and then made three-dimensional. And if you notice, though, it doesn't have too many layers on it. Why? Because if you do too many layers, you cover up the aluminum, which makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
This one is one of my newest pieces. It's called Chronicles of the Big Apple.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, you'll see it's my old comic book style, and I have a story going on, and each one of the stories pertains to something that's happening in New York.
You're really good. I mean, you could do comic books. Did you become less creative or more so during COVID?
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how creative I was. I was here alone. Sometimes my daughter would visit and one other person, and all my staff, everybody's working from home.
Right.
I created more original paintings in that time than I have in my whole career. I'm still showing and exhibiting artwork now of paintings that I created during COVID. And some of my best pieces today that are selling and being the great pieces that are part of my collection were all created during COVID.
No distractions.
Exactly. And no travel.
How many pieces do you think you've created over the past 30 years?
It's got to be, hundreds of thousands.
Of that group, do you have a favorite?
I think every year I have a favorite piece.
Do you?
Yeah. So, and I can point to every year which have been my favorites. And most of the time they've also been successful editions that have sold out.
How do you feel about people who knockoffs of your work and try to copy your work and then sell it on the street as a Fazzino?
Everyone tells me I should be flattered. So, there's been through the years, through 35 years of showing my artwork, there's been, I can't even tell you how many copycats. And they've come and gone.
But somebody told me if you put a work of yours next to them, it's not even close.
I think...
Is that accurate?
I think so, because a lot of them are just doing poster prints, cutting them up, because they're very expensive to create. One of these editions that I do is at least just the printing process, 90 to 100,000 to create one silkscreen project. It's very expensive, time consuming, and I'm not doing it all myself. I have a whole team of help.
How old are you today?
I am... 68.
You forgot for a second.
Yeah.
Years ago. Do you ever consider retiring from what you do?
No.
There is no end plan.
I don't think so. As artists and writers, for instance, what's the reason for retiring? We've worked all of these years more than other people to get to where we are.
Sure.
The arts are very hard to get to a place where you're well known.
Right.
So I've waited all these years to get to this point. Why would I retire?
Right.
Retiring is for other people. It's not
I understand
for me.
that.
So what I'd like to be able to do is do this as long as I can.
And that's going to be many years.
Yes.
When you reflect back many years from now, what do you hope that your legacy will be?
Well, I'm still trying to create pieces for legacy. For instance, working on many different projects. Big installation that I had at JFK Airport. It's now going into its 10th year here in New York. Yeah. Millions of people see this. People always tell me that it makes them happy. The artwork, because it's silkscreen, many of them are very colorful, bright. I would talk to people and have exhibitions right after COVID. Everybody said the same thing to me. I was home, I was stuck in my house, looking up at the wall, and I see your artwork, and I had such a good feeling about life. And I'm working on some other legacy projects that I think are important.
Before we go, you said there was a piece you wanted to show me?
Yes.
Is that it right there?
So
can you reach it, or
I
you need some help?
understand all your milestones that you've had, so I wanted to commemorate that. So I made it 3D.
Oh my goodness!
So I included the statue for the Telly Awards.
Telly Awards, the books.
Yep. And if you look really close, you can see different parts. Different things inside. Again, one of my things about my artwork is you can sit and stare at it and not notice everything. So you'll see commemorating, how many shows you've had.
700 shows.
Exactly. So you can see them in here.
So, this is like, I'm so honored that you would do something like this.
Well, first you have to frame it.
I got to get it framed so that it'll stand the test of time.
Exactly.
But I am so thrilled that you would take the time to do this for us.
You got it.
I'm really honored, and I just want to thank you.
You're welcome.
And I just want to say one more time, thank you also for inviting us up to New Rochelle, and I just want to wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. When artist Charles Fazzino graduated from the School of Visual Arts, he realized as an artist he needed to create a style that was different that set him apart from everyone else. He then developed his unique style that today is known as 3D pop art. His artwork has become popular all over the world while making him famous. Well, that's about all the time we have left on this edition of Profiles. Until next time, I'm Micky Burns. Thanks for tuning in.